Thank you for joining us today. My name is Spencer Coca. I am the project specialist at Schoharie Economic Enterprise Corporation. I'm joined today by Paul Fahey from Primeau-Fahey Studios. Welcome, Paul.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be representing my bride's company. Talking before, she hates presenting, so I was voluntold to show up and sound smart. So happy to do that. But
We're happy to have you.
thank you. And so I think the topic we wanted to cover today was introduction to web marketing and how that can help, through optimization or a better understanding of it, boost sales within your organization. So certainly there's some folks that are here live, Teresa, hi, but this may be viewed on demand. And so what I think I'm speaking to, if you're watching this in the future, businesses in Schoharie County, early stage small businesses. And so I'll try to keep this conversation as practical as possible, a little less academic, but hopefully it's helpful. So knowing that we would have potentially a diverse audience, I can't necessarily tailor it to just the perspectives of retail or travel and tourism or whatever else. So I'll speak at the 101 level. It assumes that your business has some, business momentum, maybe a presence on the web and social media. Maybe you're doing a little bit of email marketing. All of this would complement your bricks and mortar efforts if you have them, or maybe you're a grower and a farmer that you have simply just a sales force and you're, selling directly as a wholesaler, and maybe you're looking to grow to distribute to more buyers, in that process. So what I'll cover in the next few minutes is really a definition of, all right, what is web marketing? Let's get on the same page. And I'll spend a few minutes talking about the different aspects of it. What's part of that whole web ecosystem, if you think about it. And that could include things like search engine marketing, search engine optimization. So search engine marketing would be the paid things you might do externally. Optimization, search engine optimization, SEO, sometimes you'll hear it described as, would be what's done on your site, your website itself, to really just make it as attractive as possible for you to capture new leads. We'll talk a little bit about pay-per-click, social media, email, ways that you can stay in touch through those different channels and some of the web analytics. So when we talk about web marketing, what do we mean? What is that whole ecosystem that businesses have? Certainly the website would be key to that. In fact, I think for most businesses, the website is their flagship marketing tool. Done right, it's something that will help clarify who you are, what you do. You'll be easily found through a lot of different channels, through search and things like that. And then on the site itself, you'll have an opportunity to sell or at least get people to go to that next level. So with the website in the center of that, the company's site, around that you have different components. So organic search. So when people are typing into Google the keywords and phrases that might bring you to their products and services, what is that? Who's arriving and what's happening and all of that. Some of that could be organic. So how the site is developed so that when people are Googling whatever it is, well, first, the good thing about that is they're searching with intent. They're already thinking about your product and service. The challenge is, how do we match up their search with your site? If the site's not particularly well optimized at first, you can buy your way into that. You could have the ads that would pop up, so you're buying keywords for your products and services, and that allows you to at least buy some higher rankings. And studies have shown if you're on that first page, you're more than likely to get 40–50% of that traffic, and it drops off pretty significantly. Second, third page is down into the single digits. So it's important to either be at the top through a paid effort of those search results, or be top among the organic search results. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through. Social media is an important part of it. Email marketing, there's a lot of tools for smaller businesses, startup businesses, Constant Contact, SurveyMonkey. And then as you get into larger businesses, firms like ours at Over It, for instance, uses HubSpot. There's a number of other different tools, depending on how big your contact databases are and those kind of things. So Having the SEO portion of your site is important, whether that's paid or organic, paid search or organic search. Social media, building up those platforms is an important piece of that, your whole sort of web marketing mix. What we love about that in particular is that allows you to engage in a dialogue. For years, and I'm old enough to remember this, advertising was very much a one-way medium. We would make commercials and send them out there, barely knowing who saw them or even paid attention to them. But social media has this now conversational component to it, which allows you to listen as much as you're telling. And so having that site well integrated with your website allows you to keep some conversations growing, build some audiences that already exist through Facebook. And we'll talk about how to target them from an advertising standpoint as well. So all of those are the kind of things that would go into your whole, web ecosystem, your company's website, the paid search, the organic search, the social media, any other types of online advertising you might do either in social media or on other platforms. And so that's ultimately what we'll talk about over the next few minutes. And why does all this matter? Why is this something we should focus on? Well, again, I'm old enough to remember how quickly the web outpaced traditional advertising and direct mail, direct marketing. Those are still very important tactics to have as part of your whole marketing mix. But really what's interesting now, there's such a prolific use of the internet on our daily lives, web, social media, email. Customers have now become used to immediate access for any type of information or products. So there's that instant gratification, that instant answer of their questions. It's extremely cost effective. The really nice thing about any of what we'll talk about today compared to other types of media, it's very efficient to hyper target the people you're trying to reach with very little waste. Oftentimes you'd put a TV commercial out, but you're not sure who's reading it or seeing it or whatever else is part of that traditional mix. So it's cost effective. It's very efficient at targeting those audiences. It's measurable. You can actually see the clicks, the engagement, those kind of things, and get results in real time. And that's a lot of reasons why marketers are putting a greater emphasis and will continue to put a greater emphasis on this whole digital ecosystem. So that customer journey, as you're thinking about what brings them to doing business with you, at that top of the funnel starts with basic awareness. I need to understand who you are and where you are and just having that. So in an online world, that's where search comes into play. When people are typing in keywords for products and services, they're going to get matched up to the websites that are ranking well for those types of things. Google does a little bit with some of the geographic components of it. So they'll know that you're in this region and they'll try to connect you with assets, websites that are in your particular region, in your case, Schoharie County or that central New York area. That plus any other traditional media things you might do. So public relations, any of your offline advertising, et cetera, all of those can help you build that top of mind awareness. Then as folks engage in your site, if they're clicking on those ads and they're coming to the site, there's where you'll want to do a few things. You'll want to capture their information, get them to a page on your site where they can type in name, email address, let's keep in touch. You've got a newsletter, you might have special offers from time to time. And then there's an opportunity to continuously nurture them through what's called retargeting. Very often you might find yourself shopping on a website, but you didn't buy something. And so for the next several days, every time you're online someplace, up pops the ad for that thing you didn't buy. That's retargeting. That's basically using your cookies and pixels and basically serving up ads to you over, say, a 48 or 72-hour period of time, just to constantly stay in touch and remind you that you're there. So beyond that, then that's that conversion. If they've converted and made a purchase, great. If they're not ready, you can stay in touch through retargeting. You can continually nurture that relationship through things like email. And when you get into those different platforms, there's a lot of really great metrics for how a lot of this can play out. So let's talk about search engine optimization versus search engine marketing. So search engine optimization, as I was describing before, this is how you optimize your website on the site itself. It is for organic traffic. You're not paying for it. It definitely over the long term improves brand loyalty. It takes a longer bit of time to get higher ranked. It's slow, but it's a more lasting effect. And that encompasses everything from the content that's on your page, some of the technical things in terms of title tags and things like that that are within the site structure. Links back and forth from you to other sites, from other sites to you that are reputable. All of those different sort of on-page factors will help optimize your site. Google will start to rank you as a more what they call authoritative site, and start to match you up so that when people are typing keywords, they'll know that your site has the content you would need. Also links out to other sites with other content. So if you're perhaps in agriculture and you're connecting to Grow New York, or you're connecting to, Ag and Tech, or perhaps you're linking for internship opportunities to SUNY Cobleskill, and they're linking back to you for a case study on a project you might have done with students. All of these are examples of things that can help improve your ranking so that you're not paying for advertising. But what do you do when you're starting out? You're brand new or relatively early stage company. You haven't made these deeper investments, and they do take a while to sort of build up. Well, then you can buy search ads. You can go into your Google AdWords account, set it up relatively easy, look for a set of keywords to bid on, whatever the product names, the product types, all of those things, and then, set the price that you might want to pay. The good news is, in that case, it's only paying per click. You're only paying if somebody clicks on and expresses a bit of an interest. So they will have been typing in keywords. They'll see your ad and have the option to click on the ads above or the organic posts below. But either way, there is a bit of an intent-based situation, as well as the desire to click through. You're not paying just based on impressions and not knowing that anybody really is paying attention. So that generates a lot quicker results. That'll help you increase sales and leads a lot faster over time. And so that's a pretty important mix of that. The pay-per-click aspects, certainly can be part of that whole search, but it's very possible to put display ads in a number of different platforms, YouTube, social media like Facebook, Twitter, et cetera. So social media platforms, as well as getting within the internet, there are networks where you can have your ads placed on sites that accept ads from businesses like you. Very often you might go to Time Magazine online, or Better Homes and Gardens, or whatever it could be, and you'll see ads pop up for local businesses, and that's how they would arrive there. There you can start to get a combination. Certainly you'll have impressions. People will see it before you start to build up on clicks. It's built out on a whole different level, but I think it's important to know that that's also part of the mix. So from a social media standpoint, very often I think one of the challenges that small businesses have is that limitation of resources, both human and financial. You just don't have all the people to manage all these things. And one of the most commonly asked questions I get is like, where should I spend my time? Should I be chasing TikTok or Snapchat or something else? Facebook, by and large, is still the 800-pound gorilla in the room. That generates 180 million users, at any given time. And that's 2/3 of the population of the United States. Instagram isn't far behind. Now, Instagram is owned by Facebook. That's at 126 million, something like that. Facebook and Instagram, if you're not going to go any deeper than that, you're probably spending your time where you need to be. There's a lot of other emerging platforms, things like TikTok, Snapchat, they're in the high 80s, 90 million users, not insignificant by any means, but they may also appeal to different users, younger audiences. And so here's where you'll need to start, deciding where you should be investing your time. Should you be putting time in to help get your site to where it needs to be from an SEO standpoint? Maybe dabble in some of those top platforms in general. But again, if your business is more relevant to certain demographics, younger audiences, different things like that, you may want to consider some of those other platforms and having that as part of the mix. The other thing which I think would be interesting to talk about is email marketing. Now, you can't buy lists, you can't generate new lists, and that's why we have spam laws, and this is a good thing. But over time, as folks are visiting your site or as you're taking point of sale contacts, you have the ability to start integrating them within your business. There's a reasonable expectation could hear from you on product offers and things like that. So your point of sale merchant has the ability to export some of that contact information. Very often they'll sell it to you. But there's also an opportunity for you to start building up your own lists, telling folks on Facebook, come see us on our website, sign up for our newsletter, get sneak previews, discounts, offers, those kind of things. And the nice thing about this is it complements that whole the whole integrated campaign that we're talking about. So if your site is well optimized, going back to the beginning, great. And maybe you want to start putting a few dollars behind some, search engine terms so that when folks are Googling you, they'll find it. And at the same time, not a bad time to be putting ads out on Facebook. It can be as simple as taking a particular post and boosting it, just putting some dollars. You'll set a daily budget not to exceed X amount for a week or two, or however long you might want to do it to try it. Start to do this, now you're going to see a cumulative effect. Your site is performing well, you're getting some search traffic, you're paying for social media eyeballs, and getting people to come to your site either to make purchases or to sign up for more information. Now you've got a good list of folks that you can start to nurture through email, and then that retargeting that we talked about earlier. The really nice thing about having email marketing is it comes with some really good analytics. So you're not sending it out like you might have a postcard, for instance, and wondering if anybody got it. But really interesting, you can tell who opened it. And if there are clicks embedded in your articles, and there should be, you can find out who clicked on it. So there you're going to start to see buying signals. Which one of your customers on your lists want to learn more about what you're doing and how you're doing it, engaging, and they're sending some signals. It's probably not even of much interest to see who simply opened up an email, but if they're clicking to read the rest of an article, that tells you over time which articles or which topics or which products that you might be promoting might be the most relevant, most important. So over time, you do more of those and less of the ones that aren't performing as well. So as you can see, this whole digital ecosystem, you can start to build on itself. You can attract new users to your website. You can start to build up relationships with folks on social media. You can capture that information on your site, nurture those folks, perhaps for the time that they're, ready to buy. And all of that is talking about the things that would wrap around your current site. So one of the other questions we're very often asked is about retail platforms. So for those of you that are selling products online and have the ability to sell them in different areas, one of the questions is, should I build up my own site? Or should I be selling things on Facebook Marketplace, Etsy, eBay, Amazon, Shopify? A number of different platforms. The short answer is yes to all of these, or at least many of them are relevant. Depending on the type of product you have, certainly I would encourage you, if you have the time, to grow your own site, own your own customers. And there, it's almost like you think of it as like a freestanding store. If people know who you are and where you are and they want your products, they'll drive to your store and they'll walk through the door and they'll purchase them and they'll drive home. Same with your freestanding website. If your website has traffic and you've done all the things you can to start optimizing it, you'll build up your own customer base and they'll know you. However, using that sort of bricks and mortar analogy for a second, places like Etsy or eBay or even Shopify behave almost like a shopping mall. You're one merchant among many others in that space. However, people are going to that space with the intent to shop. So they may not necessarily be coming there specifically to find you, but they may find somebody else and discover you in the process. Again, as they're typing in product names that they're interested in, or a lot of these sites do very well to suggest, hey, people that bought this thing might like that thing, and that thing could be you. So building up a presence on those platforms in many ways can be equally as important as building up that kind of traffic on your own website. So things like, again, Etsy and Shopify and eBay, even Facebook Marketplace, depending on quantity of products or what you're actually selling, really could make a lot of sense. And it's worth, especially at early stage companies. Now, depending on, again, the type of, if you're more of a product-based than a service-based business, certainly being and having a presence in Amazon is essential. Amazon and even Walmart online all have the opportunity to engage in, smaller merchants. You can upload inventory, so you're not caught trying to, fulfill an order for 10,000 units when you only have 10 on the floor or something. But all of those, I think, are important to be part of that whole web ecosystem and answer some of that question about, should I build up my own site, only my own site, or should I be in multiple places? And depending on how small your company is and how early stage your company is, you may want to start in one of those platforms as you then work to validate, kind of test the market, see if there's an interest in your products, as you then dabble and dive deeper into building your own web presence. And I think overall, the web analytics are critical to this as well. Your website has its own analytics. All the platforms that I was talking about, Facebook or Shopify or any of those things, have their own analytics. So you can start to see the traffic that's coming to your site and what pages they're going to, the keywords they're typing in that brings you to those sites. And that can tell you what keywords are successful, or you may have products associated with different keywords that you want to promote a little bit more or work to optimize because it's not bringing traffic to your site, but you feel like it should. So kind of wrapping it up a little bit, I think, and summarizing the conversation up to this point, certainly, one of the old sayings is content is king. You have to have the products and you have to have the content that wants to bring people to your site. Certainly if there's no demand for what you have, they're not typing it in online, and it's harder to create that demand necessarily. So that content is essential, not only having the products and services that people want, but describing those on your site, and then building out the other types of tools that can help promote them, like video and infographics or copy and those kind of things. I think it's very important, especially for your own individual website, to invest in both SEO, so optimizing your site for people searching organically, but also what we call SEM, search engine marketing, the paid efforts that would bring people searching keywords to your site. One is free, but takes a little longer. The other one is paid, but gets people there a little bit quicker. Investing in your site and retail platforms as well, I think is essential, depending on obviously the type of business. If you're a service-based business, less relevant. Staying active on social media, I think, is extremely important. Having a constant presence at least once a week, if you can, a few times a week, helps to build out that conversation, helps to keep you top of mind so that when people do have a buying need or decision, you're ready to go. And then capturing contacts, as I described before, having the opportunity when people come to your site, if they're purchasing, great, got them, but if they're not quite ready and they do want to keep in touch, having a mechanism on all those key pages to sign up for your email, to make sure that you're retargeting. This is one of the paid advertising things that you can do, to follow them around for a couple days. And I guess above all, probably the last tip that I would offer is focusing. For small businesses, everything I just described seems a bit daunting, and certainly you can outsource and hire other firms to do those kind of things. But wherever possible, focus. If you can't be, and perhaps at the very early stages, don't need to be on all the social media platforms, just focus on the ones that are most relevant to your target audience. Maybe it's just Instagram or just Facebook or just LinkedIn. Do that, do it well, get that under control, then move on to the next thing. And then you'll find that it's pretty scalable. It's easy to take content from one platform, repurpose it easily, in other areas, but don't try to take on too much. And certainly if you're an early stage company, having all of that, I think, and trying to do all that at once can be certainly a bit daunting. So anyway, I think we had about a half hour. I want to at least have the conversation at that level, but also be able to, answer any questions for folks that are joining us live. And for those of you on demand in the future, thanks for watching, I guess.
Well, thank you so much. You bring up a lot of great points, and there's a lot to unpack here. So I think I'll start off with some questions. You mentioned retargeting, search engine optimization, search engine marketing. Um, I think where I want to start is when you're at that development stage of your website and you want to make sure that all of these things are set up and that capability is available. What are the best ways of going about that? Is this something that's additional functionality you have to pay for? Is this something that most hosting sites have, hosting services have in their design format? Or is this something that you need to have a professional do?
Like anything, if you put it in the hands of professionals, you'll get better results. I'm reminded of that anytime I try a home improvement project. I'm sort of bullied into it by my wife, who might be watching this on demand. But but then it never really seems to do as well as when a professional does it. That said, to answer your question, certainly things like SEO aren't necessarily things that you have to pay for. As you're setting up sites, even if you're using basic site builders like Squarespace and Wix, they have tools that allow you to sort of fill in the blanks and make your site as search engine friendly as possible. So it isn't something necessarily that you would need to pay for, but it is a bit of a specialty, and Google is always changing those formulas and algorithms that bring people to your site. So having people that just do this all day, might result in better, faster results, but it doesn't necessarily need to be paid for. If you have a web developer, as you're building out the content, they're going to be asking about how to set up the site and structure the site, all the technical things, as well as the content that's on the site, all would contribute to that. So more than likely, he or she would have enough, of that wisdom to at least get you some of the basics.
Excellent. And you mentioned retargeting. How does one engage in retargeting? Is that something that you have to go to a service for, or is it something that a marketer does?
Yeah, that's certainly something that's a little bit more technical to set up, something that you would probably want to outsource. It's not terribly expensive to implement it. So it's not as if you're spending tens of thousands of dollars a year on retargeting. The cost to actually retarget somebody is very, very minimal. It's just hiring a professional that can actually set that up as part of your advertising, that builds up the ad tools around that, so that when somebody hits your site, they're tracked and followed for that 48 or 72-hour period of time.
Excellent. And what kind of return on investment can companies expect from this type of advertising? Is it something that there's hard data on, or is there?
There is. It varies by industry. Dollars spent in different types of industries. Some are easier to break into, some are harder to break into. It depends on the competition and the cost. So you can get some rough percentages, nothing that I would be able to quote offhand, but it does exist that says, for dollars spent, you should expect, X return. And it would vary. It's going to be a lower percentage for things like fast fashion, things that are constantly changing in a very, hot competitive landscape, compared to other things. So
But would you say that the return on investment for, say, a smaller business would be um, encouraging in order for them to actually engage in this type of marketing? Or
yeah, and the return on investment you'll get from the things we were talking about today is going to be far more measurable, first off, and far stronger than some of traditional forms of advertising. So newspaper ads, billboards, radio, terrestrial radio. All these are important to build up top of mind awareness. They belong in your marketing mix. But your ability to know what dollars were spent that resulted in how many clicks, that brought people to your site, that converted to customers, all that can be measured. So your return on investment there, and your ability to surgically target people through social media. You can tell Facebook, hey, I'm interested in these personas, this age, this income level, education level, geographic region, people with an interest in certain lifestyle areas. You can check all those boxes, and that gives you an extremely efficient approach for your dollar. And so the return on investment in digital, is much more measurable, but oftentimes is a higher return on investment than other traditional forms of advertising.
excellent. I think I'll open the floor now to any questions that anyone on this call may have, and the floor is yours.
So barring any questions, maybe I just hit it out of the ballpark initially, and we'll thank folks for joining us, and certainly for people watching on demand, thank you for joining us and watching this.
Excellent. Before we leave, though, could you just give us a quick overview of Primeau-Fahey Studios, what you guys offer,
Sure.
background?
So that's my wife, Kelly. It's a woman-owned business. She founded it in 1993. She does a lot of graphic design capabilities, public relations a little bit, websites for smaller, early stage companies, things where there might be templates on Shopify and some of those other kind of tools. So she really does work to support small businesses through annual report design, publications work, direct mail efforts, but also some of these other things that we were talking about here too. So and she's very proud to be a woman-owned business and been around since, well, she's been around since longer, but the business has been around since 93. I won't tell you how long she's been around.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time and we appreciate all the insights you've offered us.
Yeah, thank you very much. Great to see everybody.
All right. Have a great day.
Thanks. Enjoy the rest of your night.